The interview question that I've been asked to talk about is, tell me about a time when you had to give someone difficult feedback. And this is a behavioral question. So behavioral questions are ones that start with, tell me about a time, tell me about a situation. And they're based on the premise that past performance is the best indicator of future performance. So the biggest mistakes that I see people making with this question are that they either speak in vague generalities or they don't completely answer the question. And so I'm going to give you some tips on how to make sure that you're one of the people who really shines when a behavioral question is asked. So what I recommend that you do is create 5 to 10 CAR stories to take with you to the interview in your mental toolkit. CAR is an acronym that stands for challenge, action, result. And so people who aren't prepared for behavioral questions might say something like, well, I've always just been really good at giving feedback. It doesn't bother me. I don't mind. And that's kind of heard by the interviewer as the old Charlie Brown, wah, wah, wah. It doesn't tell them anything. It doesn't support your candidacy at all. The second way that people fail in behavioral questioning is they don't complete that story. So remember, I told you want to tell CAR stories. Well, they tell CA stories. They give me the challenge and the action, but they forget the result. And the result is often where the payoff is in these CAR stories or in these behavioral answers. So they might say something like, and this is a real world example I'm going to use. They might say something like, well, I had a situation where I had an employee, this was early in my career, and I had to give him feedback about his body odor. He had a body odor problem, and I didn't handle it very well. I kind of beat around the bush about it. I didn't deal with it as quickly as I should have. But I did finally sit down with him and have a conversation and tell him that he had a body odor problem. And then that's all. That's all they tell me. So they're really missing that opportunity for the payoff of what happened in that story. And P.S., they didn't tell that example. I didn't tell it in a very compelling way. So I wasn't really drawing you into my story. So here's how you might want to answer that question. Well, early in my career, I had a situation with a male employee who had a body odor problem. And he liked to play ping pong at lunchtime. And apparently he played it very competitively because he would come back from lunch pretty sweaty and stinky. And we lived in Georgia. And so by about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, he was really offensive. And instead of handling it directly, I would sometimes send him home in the afternoon and tell him that he'd done a really great job, take some time off. But I really avoided dealing with the situation. So what I did finally do was I talked to my boss, I got some input from him, and then I scheduled a performance evaluation with this employee. And when we sat down, I told him everything he was doing great because he was a really good employee. So I started with all of that. I got very uncomfortable when I had to tell him about the body odor thing, and I finally got it out. And his response surprised me so much. He said, "Thank you. I had no idea. I'll take care of that." And you know what? He did. And so I learned, and here's, by the way, this is the bonus of this question. Here's how I want you to end it. It's a little bow on it. What I learned from that situation was that just because something was personal and uncomfortable to me didn't mean that I didn't have a responsibility to share that information. And I couldn't assume that the other person was going to take it the same way I would take it if someone had to tell me that. So I really learned early on to be direct, to be quick about feedback with my employees, and to be honest, because they can't improve if they don't know how they're doing. So I hope that helps you in answering this kind of a behavioral question, and I wish you the best with your interviews. Take care.